The other thing about the draw tool is when I write on another object, it will automatically group to it. The reason we built that in was if you were annotating a document or picture, like I'm going to show in a couple of moments, chances are you probably want those things to maintain their relative position, but those things can be detached through a process called ungrouping. One way is just to triple tap on the overlapping area, and it will separate them, or using a more advanced tool called the inspector, which lets you do a whole variety of things that I'll get to in a few moments. I'm going to regroup these, and I'm going to move that over there. So below the text tool, this is where you start to really unlock a bunch of interesting options. I can insert images, I can insert videos, I can insert files from any type of destination or import source. I can import clip art. This is actually pretty new, and this is all on all platforms. And I'll insert a background here. And clip art behaves just like any other object that we've been doing before. And I could add a background. I can add some people. And quickly have independent objects that I can move around and animate on the stage. I can insert a fully functioning web browser. Apologies for my slow typing. And this too is an object that can be moved and rotated and scaled around the page. So it's very open-ended as far as the types of content. There's really no content that cannot be inserted. That's a double negative. Some other tools, I'm going to keep going down here, and we can, if questions come up, we can circle back to some of these really powerful import options. This tool is a cutout tool where I can quickly crop out parts, and it can be rectangular, it could be circular. And let me just give you an example of how this has value. I'm just going to delete all this stuff here, and I'm going to insert a picture. And let's see, go to my photo stream here. I think I had some nice landscapes somewhere. Let's see. All right, this is a drum set. I can almost create a puzzle from a picture like this where you can have different parts of the picture. Now I'm kind of improvising here. I didn't do it perfectly, but you can take a picture or a sheet of paper or any kind of pre-existing material and quickly make it into separate pieces that can be moved around on the stage, and that's using the cutout tool. We talked about the delete tool already. You can tap one thing, so I can select multiple things and delete them. The pointer, I was using that on the first slide. It can call out different parts of what's being shown. Now I've got kind of a double pointer action here because I'm also using something in the app settings that shows everything that I'm tapping on and pressing. And that's just helpful when doing demos. But when you're using this in a classroom or something like that, it might be helpful to use this pointer to call out something on the stage without leaving a mark. All right, so let's talk about the inspector. So I've cleaned up the stage here, and I'm gonna just add a couple more rectangles to show something that you can do with what's called the inspector. So the first is that everything that gets added to the stage is added in layers with the most recent thing going on the top. So when I drag this rectangle, you'll see it's on top, and then this one's going to be on top there. With the inspector, I could pick an object and send it to the back, or send it backwards step by step, and I can rearrange things. In that Arrange tab, I can also align, so I can make them all align and come together like a group. I can have them all align on the bottom so that they look like they're stacked on the same thing. And those are just general common design tools. On the Edit tab, when I select a group of objects, I can group them together. So now they move as one. I can also ungroup them. And this is what I was talking about before, where the word hello had grouped to that rectangle. So I could pick things that aren't even touching and group them together, and they will move as one. I can duplicate things. And a cool little trick here is if you want to duplicate things but hide them, or kind of make it look like this, like a forever cloner, I'm going to pick all those objects. I'm going to ungroup them and take away that hello. And then watch, I'm going to do align center, align middle. And now I'm going to group them, move it over here, and ungroup. And now it looks like I've got like a stack of cards that I'm pulling off of. So that's just by using the inspector and duplicating. I could copy, I could paste, I can deselect everything I've got, and just drew a person. In the edit menu, I could flip the person left, right, up, down. I can make them rotate, or any object I can make rotate. I'll just stop from rotating.
Okay, so there are a few additional parts that I wanted to mention for the design tools. The insert icon looks a bit different. It's just a plus sign for the older version. With this version, I don't know, has like two rectangles and a plus sign. So within the insert tool, we have a few more features. So you can use placeholders. So that'll just be like an empty box where you can place anything in it for later. So it could be an existing image or video, image from the website, a clip art. Although I don't know why you have a placeholder for clip art, so that's sort of useless. For an equation. So it's just empty boxes for you to place things in later. There's more for if you want to use a template instead of you just making a project right then and there. But it's just good to know. Also, with inserting certain things, like he said, most things will work. But if you wanted to insert a GIF or GIF or however you say it, those don't actually work. Like this one should work, but it's not. It's just a still image. It's not like a JPEG or PNG. So yeah, Sokka's arms aren't waving all noodle-like. It's just frozen. So that's a bit sad, but basically everything else will work. You'll have to test out the differences, but mainly images, videos, audio, those all work. Another thing I wanted to mention was inside the inspector tool. I think everything's the same except there's an additional thing called infinite scroll. So if I select Sokka and I press infinite scroll, I can scroll him left to right or up and down, and you can see he just keeps going. So it can be a little disorienting. You can decide how fast, so I wouldn't go that fast. You can also stop it by hitting that middle blue button. So I'll just keep him going this way. So you can move him around and he'll still keep panning. So it's basically the same as that rotation tool he showed, except it's more of a panning. So let's just say for some reason you wanted your background to keep moving. So you would do the infinite scroll and then, let's see, I think it's selected, and then set as background. So this could be your background if you really wanted. I'm trying to think of things you would use for the infinite scroll. There was a good example they showed with a rocket flying up, except the rocket wasn't moving. It was just a background with the stars. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you want something to appear as if it's moving, you can just have the background move and the object in the foreground just stay still. So those are the main things I wanted to point out just for this part of the video. Okay, for your next little assignment for the design tools section, I want you to create a promotion ad for Joann Fabric coupons. Don't ask why, it's just a good website to use. So first, use the same website page. insert this browser in. So let's see. Oop, it's glitching a little. Okay, so you can see I'm scrolling, so it's not just an image. It's a web browser I inserted. So I want you to put that in there, annotate on top of it. If you want to point something out that seems important, you can do that. Grab the viewer's attention. It doesn't have to be super thought out, just to practice annotating things. Okay, also insert some clip art, so you can find that in inserting clip art, and just try to find things that relate to the page, and if you can't, then you can always draw. Use the cutout tools. There's 3 different ones. I don't know if he goes too much in depth, but try to figure out some of their differences. There's a rectangular one, like a lasso one, and one that looks like it's an actual cutting tool. It's a little more precise than the others. So if you want to really grab someone's attention, almost like a magnifying glass, you can cut a certain part of the web page. Let's see if that's actually possible. Okay, yeah. I didn't do a great job, but you can cut parts out of the web page to grab someone's attention. Also layer some objects on top of each other, like if you're using clip art, to show some depth. And have something rotating. You probably don't want it rotating that fast, but just to get you used to that infinite rotation tool. Or you can do infinite scroll, whatever suits you.
And then I can also make an object a background element. And this is important for what I'm about to show next, which is the zoom tool. This is an undo and redo, so I can undo and redo moves. The zoom tool gives you access to what we call an infinite canvas. So when I zoom out, I'm able to zoom out on everything on that slide or zoom all the way in as far as I want forever. Now, the reason that this person is not changing is because I'd set that object as a background element, so it would never move no matter what I did. When I unset it as the background, it will move along with everything else. And you could set anything, an individual object or a whole picture, as a background element. And go back to the inspector. Another thing I can do is I can lock things. So if I didn't want this title to accidentally get moved, I've locked it. So even when I try to move it by accident, it can't happen. And there's all sorts of other interesting locking things. Like, for example, if I lock the vertical position of this rectangle, I can move it left to right very smoothly, but I cannot move it up or down. So that can be helpful or an interesting effect. Same thing, let's see. I'll lock the horizontal position of this person, and now they can only fall down straight, but I cannot move them left or right. It's actually kind of a cool effect. Whoa, like an action movie. Talked about the color picker. I have an infinite palette of colors I can choose from. You can even add hex or RGB values, and you can even use an ink dropper to select a custom color from the stage. Now, most of these are pretty standard, but say I really liked this gray, I can choose it and say done, and now it'll get added to my colors, and it's something that I can quickly use. Oh, look, those got grouped together. And this is probably the section I was going to spend the most time on, was all the types of content that you could add or import. I made a note before, everything is organized by slides. I can add a new slide. And, oh, this happens to be the background color of the first slide. That's why it's black. In the slide sorter, I can change background color. I can change pattern so that you can have a different kind of set. Oh, I happen to change it for everything. Not sure if I wanted to do that. Oh, well, we'll change it back later. And even some of these backgrounds are dynamic so that you can keep zooming in and out however much you want within that infinite canvas.